All right, so this video is on the week 4 in-class exercise regarding regressions and how to calculate them and how to make the figures in Excel. So you should watch the regression video, the video explaining regressions before we go on to completing this exercise. But assuming you have watched that, we can scroll down and start inputting the data in table 1, which describes the height above ground versus the dry density of tree trunk segments. We can input this data into Excel, and once we have it in there, we'll make a scatter plot, we'll add the trend line. I'll show you how to add the equation for the trend line and calculate the p-value for that trend line. So let's take a minute to pause the video and add this data into Excel. Once you have the data in Excel, it should look something like this. And once we have it here, we can add in the scatter plot. And we'll do that first by selecting the data. We'll go to Insert, Recommended Charts. We'll go to All Charts. We'll scroll down to XY Scatter. And this plot on the right is the one that we're interested in. So select the one on the right and hit OK. And so the default Excel scatter plot is kind of an eyesore. It includes some things that we don't need while excluding some of the other things that we do need. So we'll have to spend a minute formatting this correctly, and then we'll add the trend lines and get to the statistics. But first, let's start by selecting the title and hitting delete. We don't need that. We don't need these light gray horizontal and vertical lines, so we can select those and hit delete. We want to label these X and Y axes, and we also want to make sure that the font size is size 12 and the font color is black. So let's do that by first selecting the X-axis. We'll go up here to Home, and currently it's a font size 9, but we'll kick that up to 12. And we'll make sure that the font color is black. Its default, for some reason in Excel, is a dark gray. We'll add the axis. We'll make sure that the X-axis line is black, and we can right-click on the X-axis. We'll have to first select the X-axis and then right-click to go to Format Axis. We'll go to the paint bucket. We'll go to Line, and we'll go to Solid Line and make sure that it's black, and it is. We'll also add the tick marks while we're here by going over to the Axis Options, scrolling down to tick marks, major type outside. Let's do the same thing for the Y-axis real quick. Let's select the Y-axis, font size 12, font color black. We already have the tick marks open, so we can go to major type outside. And then we'll make sure that those lines and tick marks are all black. So we'll go to Solid Line and make sure black is selected. Let's get rid of this dark gray line around the whole figure, but we will add a border around the data. So let's do that by clicking inside the chart area. We'll go to Border, No Line, and then we'll select inside the plot area. We'll go to Border, Solid Line. Once we're in here, we can also manipulate how we want the actual data to look, and you can do that by selecting any of the data points. It highlights all of them. We can go to Marker, and for the border, we can add a black line, and we try to avoid color if possible. So we can change this blue fill. We can change that to white. So we'll go to solid fill, and select white. And now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to label our X and our Y axes. So you can do that by selecting the figure, going over to design, and going to add chart element, add axis titles. We want the horizontal, and we also want the vertical. So the horizontal here is going to be height. So let's change this to say height, and we want to include our units, which is in meters for height. And we'll change the y-axis to be the dry density, just kilograms per meter cubed. And if you want to make this, if you want to add subscript in here, like I have over here, what you would do is you would just highlight what you want to be subscripted. You would go to the Home tab, and in the font area, in the bottom right-hand side, there's the font settings, and that's where you can choose subscript. Okay, so we're going to want to make sure that our X and our Y axes are have a font size of 12 and our font color that's black. So let's select everything by triple clicking inside of the axis title. Go to font size 12, and we'll make sure the color is black. We'll do the same thing for height. All right, and so now we have our scatter plot for our independent and dependent variables. Now we want to add our trend lines and get our the equation of that trend line, the r-squared value, and also the p-value. So the easiest way to do this is to select any of the data points, right-click, and go to Add Trend Line. The default is linear, and that's what we're going to be working with today. We can scroll down to the bottom where it says Display Equation on Chart, as well as display the r-squared value on chart. So this is giving us 3 useful bits of information here. So the equation of this line of best fit, this dotted blue line here, is negative 1.01 plus 18.727. So our slope is negative 1.01, which makes sense because this is a negative slope. And our y-intercept is 18.727. The r-squared value tells you how well your independent variable is at predicting your dependent variable. And so an r-squared value of 0.91 can tell you that height explains 91% of the variation that we're seeing in dry density, which is really good. You're explaining, 9/10 of the variation in dry density just by looking at one variable such as height. But what this isn't telling you is if this slope is significantly different from 0. And so the way that we do that in Excel is we have to use something called the Data Analysis Tool Pack. And if you have it pre-installed, it should be in your Data tab. All the way on the right-hand side is Data Analysis Tools. But if you don't have that installed, we'll have to install it real quick just by going to File. All the way down on the bottom left is the options. We'll go to add-ins. We'll go to Manage Excel Add-ins and hit Go. And since I already have it installed, the Data Analysis Tool Pack is already checked. But if you don't have it installed, it will be unchecked, and you'll want to make sure that you do check it and select OK. You should then have the ability to access the data analysis tools. So we'll select data analysis tools. It opens up and it gives you a bunch of different statistics that we can do, but what we're interested in right now is regression. So we'll hit OK. You'll want to make sure that the that the labels box is checked. And then for our x-axis range, that's our independent variable. Again, that's height. We'll select all of that data inclusive of the title. The y range, that's going to be our dependent variable. And in this example, that's dry density. So we'll select all that. Everything else you can leave as is, and you hit OK. And once you do that, it opens up the summary output table in a new tab. And it gives you a bunch of information that you already have, such as the r-squared value. You have the slope, which was the negative 1.01. You have the intercept, which was the 18.723. And the new bit of information that we need is this p-value. And so this p-value tells you if the slope is significantly different from 0 or not. And so that's all the information that you need for your soil data tables. So yeah, that should be it. Let me know if you have any questions.